637, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in along with Johnny B. Ken Weaver. Just so excited to be back on quite the interesting news day. Now, of course, as you know, perhaps you know, maybe you don't, but over the weekend, the president, former President Donald Trump, said this.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Now, if you have been paying attention, you know that the president was, that quote, utilized in mainstream media outlets all across the country. And they are literally saying that the president is threatening a bloodbath if he is not reelected in November. However, that comment was taken incredibly out of context. Here's what the former president actually said. He was talking about cars and China making a bunch of vehicles and then exporting them into America. This is the actual comment.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine...
All right, so there you go. You hear it in context. Now, Matthew Hurtt is joining us, our Grassroots political analyst. And, you know, Matthew, I've got to ask, the media has been caught clearly lying and taking the former president out of context. Even Joe Scarborough deleted a tweet where he took the president out of context. You think this is going to be one of those moments where perhaps maybe people do begin to realize that the media is up to no good, or is this just pretty much par for the course?
Dan, it's great to be with you and welcome back. This is something that, again, for communications professionals on the Republican side, it's a little frustrating. Even that Drudge headline this morning still has that up. WKRN down there in Nashville tweeted about it yesterday. This is something that is so easy for the lazy establishment media to do, and they are not going to back off. You saw a couple of instances, Joe Scarborough and some others, who claim to be objective journalists or opinion makers on national television. But it's so easy for them to do this. The American people are able to see through it thanks to radio stations like this and social media that quickly debunk these kinds of garbage claims by the left and by the establishment media. And I just hope that voters are able to see through these kinds of fake news assaults on Donald Trump as we head into this general election.
One of the things, and even Nancy Pelosi, and I'm going to give you my take on this real quick, but, you know, even Nancy Pelosi, this is what she said over the weekend.
He's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here. How respectful I am of the American people and their goodness. But how much more do they have to see from him to understand that this isn't what our country is about?
And what's amazing is that she's talking about how she has respect for the American people, and she's literally lying straight to their face.
Donald Trump makes it very easy for people like Nancy Pelosi and others to attack him in this way. You and I have talked about this before on this program. I wish from a communication standpoint that he would use different language, but he doesn't. And he's from New York, and this is what we've come to expect. And it breaks through the wall. Again, the gatekeepers in the national media who used to tell us what to think, who used to tell us what the news was, and now who peddle these lines, communications talking points from Nancy Pelosi and the National Democrats. And most Americans, the Americans who are paying attention to what's going on, are going to see through this. This is an attack on our democracy, is when you create and peddle fake news for the Democratic Party and to advance your Democratic platform into the general election. Not only do the Democrats have their candidates and their campaign infrastructure, but they have reporters who are willing to peddle these lines in direct opposition to what is true. And, you know, what Donald Trump said is actually correct. This is an instance. American manufacturing, it was a major plank of the Trump administration from 2017 into 2020, 2021. And it would no doubt be a major effort by his administration in a second term. So if you work in American manufacturing and you're concerned about items coming from China, if you're concerned about America's dominance in the manufacturing stage, this is something that is very important to you as a voter and to you as a hardworking, tax-paying American.
Well, and as we talked about earlier, Matthew, the term bloodbath is actually, it's sort of financial vernacular. That's what they say when you lose a lot of jobs and you lose a lot of money and so forth. They call it a bloodbath. And that's part of Donald Trump's vernacular because he is and always has been a businessman. Now, moving on. Apparently, the Washington Post over the weekend has the headline that Vice President Kamala Harris should step aside for the good of the country. Now, this is Kathleen Parker, and she has her moments where she's conservative. She also has other moments where she's more moderate. But they're not the first ones, and they're probably not going to be the last ones that say that Vice President Kamala Harris should step aside as the most unpopular vice president in the history of vice presidents. But she's not going to step aside, is she?
I don't believe so, but this is something, again, that political scientists and prognosticators dream about, is something that energizes Joe Biden's campaign. Sleepy Joe on the campaign trail isn't firing up voters, and Democrats are worried that voters are rightfully going to ask questions about his age and his ability to serve out another 4 years. And Kamala Harris is exceedingly unpopular with voters. If Joe Biden were to remove himself from the top of the ticket, it is not clear that Kamala Harris would be able to make it across the finish line. And Democrats and talking heads will do anything to inject a little bit of energy into Joe Biden's campaign. This is sort of akin to when John McCain picked Sarah Palin. They're looking for something that would shock voters and enthuse voters in a way that distracts from Joe Biden's age and inability to carry out his responsibilities as president.
Dan Mandis here along with Matthew Hurtt, and he is our Grassroots political analyst. I want to play you a piece of audio, Matthew, and it's one of my favorite pieces of audio. It's Donald Trump talking about Fani Willis.
Fani. It's spelled Fanny. It's spelled Fanny like your ass, right, Fanny?
Well, that's where, my opinion, Fani Willis, that's where she is pulling her legal maneuverings out of. But anyway, let me ask you, Matthew, the judge has now decided that Fani can stay on the case as the prosecutor in Fulton County as long as Nathan Wade, her lover, is fired from the case, which he, of course, has stepped down, as everyone now knows. But the judge said that she was unethical. She made terrible decisions. She lied about not having a relationship with Nathan Wade until after she hired him. She perjured herself. Yet somehow, incredibly, this judge, who, by the way, at one point did donate to Fani Willis, this judge decided that she can stay on, but Nathan Wade would have to step aside. By demanding that Nathan Wade step aside, the judge is admitting that there was a lot of nefarious things going on, a lot of corruption going on. Yet he allows Fani Willis to stay. She's the one that facilitated the whole thing. To me, let me just state this, then I'll let you talk about this. But to me, what this does is this, by allowing Fani Willis to stay on this case. Number one, it's going to give Trump the opportunity to appeal this, I think, number one. And number two, I think that it just proves that this is a system that is out to get Donald Trump. And number three, what she's trying to do is taint the jury pool. Go ahead.
Even CNN said on Friday that Trump keeps racking up pretrial wins. In this instance, where she was not removed from the case, is a pretrial win for Trump. It allows individuals and the media to question the decision-making process in this, and it also delays. There are 4 criminal trials, and they all have to to play out in succession. They're not going to take place at the same time. This will not be concurrent cases in a number of states. And this further delays action fully until past Election Day. Yep. And so as we've seen, the timing on these is important. And this is one where the Trump legal defense really went hard against Fani Willis and were ultimately successful in drawing out the fact that she had serious conflict of interest in employing somebody she was in a relationship with. And this is the kind of legal maneuvering, if we think about the justice system through the lens of lawfare, that is to say political opponents using the legal system against their folks they don't agree with, then this is a win for Donald Trump, and it will further delay this action, giving voters a chance to cast their ballot for Donald Trump heading into November, knowing that we may not get to the third or fourth criminal action against him until after Election Day. And so this is a win for Donald Trump.
It's almost like they did him a favor, because this proves that what Donald Trump has been saying all along about how the Department of Justice and these local prosecutors, they're all out to get him. And there is coordination between the two because, as we know, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis, they met with the Biden administration. So, I mean, this is something, and that's part of what she lied about under oath. All right, very quickly, one more audio bite to play for you. Joe Biden's $3.3 billion payoff.
For generations, Black, Brown, and Native American, Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians communities weren't fully included in our democracy or our economy. Yet by pure courage, heart, and grit, they never gave up. They pursued the full promise of America. We're recognizing that history to make new history.
So what he's going to do is, in that speech, he talks about how he wants to give $3.3 billion in 132 different projects to deliver, I'm air quoting now, environmental justice for those, challenged communities. And so to me, what this is number one, you've been in office for, 3 years. Now you're doing this. And I'm, very suspicious, of course, and cynical because he knows that he's not doing well within those communities.
This looks like an effort to spend taxpayer dollars on campaign handouts. I was just up in New York over the weekend with Black and Hispanic Caucus for the New York Young Republicans, doing training on messaging and organizing. And this is the kind of thing that voters can see straight through. Yep. Donald Trump is appealing to a greater number of Latinos, a greater number of African Americans. And those are all good things. I think it is because he speaks directly to the people. He doesn't mince words. And the people see that Joe Biden's promises sort of fall flat, his inability to govern. But this is a desperate attempt to use taxpayer funds to curry favor with different groups. Again, the left uses intersectionality, the difference between Blacks and Hispanics and different demographic groups to try to cobble this coalition together. And Donald Trump is doing a good job peeling off voters from the traditional Democratic coalition in a way that is going to cause Democrats to get more and more desperate. We'll see more desperate language. We'll see more efforts to pay off demographic groups using taxpayer dollars. And I think that if Donald Trump just keeps up the message and keeps talking about what's important to the American people, that voters are going to see through this.
All right, Matthew, we've got 30 seconds. Talk about something that you're going to be involved with coming to Nashville. I'm very excited about this. The Learn Right Summit. It's happening April 19th and 20th. It's all about teaching parents to teach their kids the ways of conservatives.
We've got a great summit. We've got Chairman Mark Green, Riley Gaines, Congressman Byron Donalds, and many, many others coming to Nashville on April 19th and 20th. This is for parents. This is for people who are interested in running for school board. This is for existing school board members who want to know how to govern once they get elected. A great coalition, a nationwide effort to bring classical liberal education and to instill in the next generation what it means to be an American and what it means to save and protect our constitutional republic. The Learn Right Summit with Leadership Institute on April 19th and 20th.
Can't wait. I'm looking forward to it myself. Matthew, as always, a great conversation and looking forward to speaking to you again.